I want to talk today about something that I don't think I've ever discussed on this channel before, or let you guys see this side of me. But I think it's a powerful thing to discuss that I don't really see on the internet very much, and that is talking about anger. Now, personally, am I an angry person? No. But I can be a very irritable person, which is maybe like a step down of that. And I'm having one of those days today where I just feel irritable and frustrated and pissed. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to come on here and really talk about anger. We all have different ways of how we deal with it, whether we pretend we don't feel it. If you're like me, you kind of shame yourself for feeling it. Or a lot of people will kind of like push it down until it becomes anxiety or burnout, or you cry. Like if you've ever cried out of anger, I've definitely been there as well. Emotional shutdown, or the opposite, where we just tend to explode. And I want to show you through this video how anger isn't a villain, but it's actually a very powerful tool that we can use to get ahead when we are feeling that way. If you're new here, I'm Sarah, and I created this channel to give you everyday practical ways to build a better life, to be more peaceful and happy and abundant and joyful and all of those things. And I do that through self-mastery and spirituality. And by the end of this video, I want you to understand why anger exists, how it actually works in our body and in our energy field, and most importantly, how to transmute it into power, into clarity and momentum, and even awakening. It's not about suppressing anger, but really how to alchemize it. Anger isn't bad or non-spiritual or low vibrational. It's actually a very powerful life force energy, and anger can really be looked at as your body's internal system saying something is in misalignment. So when we don't learn how to deal with anger, which most of us don't, especially like growing up and how we were raised, it can become things like overthinking or passive aggressiveness or anxiety or resentment or feeling emotionally numb. And when anger is suppressed or not expressed correctly, it becomes a literal poison to our minds and our bodies. Anger can literally give us diseases. So what we can do is learn how to express it consciously so that it can be a part of our transformation. First, let's talk about how anger actually works. Now, obviously, anger is a fast-moving energy, and it rises quickly because it is meant to propel us into action. And if we don't, then it becomes propelled inward. Anger is also a part of self-worth, right? So if someone, for example, crosses the boundary and you get angry, it's because it's a part of you that kind of like steps forward and says like, no more. I'm not accepting this. And I think the most important point here is that anger shows you that you are ready for change. You see, most people, and myself to a certain extent, view anger as destructive, but spiritually, anger can happen right through a breakthrough or right after a breakthrough. You know, there's been so many times on my self-development journey where I have these breakthroughs and then I get angry about different things, right? Like past situations, at myself for how I handled past situations, at other people. So when you kind of sometimes have these realizations, it can make you angry because, again, that self-abandonment is kind of at the forefront. Like, how did I let this happen? Or, whatever it may be. And the thing is you don't get angry about things that you're indifferent to, the things that don't really matter to you, right? Because then it wouldn't really affect you. The only reason that you get angry is because it does matter. So I think that's a really good place to start. So anger begins, like most things, in our nervous system. If you want to learn more about your nervous system, I have an entire video that I will post right here if you want to check it out. But what happens is our bodies sense some sort of a threat. It can be physical, right? Like back in the day. It can be emotional. It can be energetic. And it activates that fight or flight response. But that's kind of where the spiritual component of it comes in. It's really a message from your higher self saying, this isn't aligned, this isn't my truth, and this doesn't match the version of me that I am becoming. And so what happens is often anger will show up when the old version of you and the new version of you collide. So for example, maybe you're tolerating something that you have outgrown, or stay in situations that don't value you, or ignoring your intuition, or continuing patterns you know that you are meant to break, right? So think of this example, right? Say you want to lose weight, right? And you make this promise to yourself, I'm gonna eat healthier, or go to the gym, or walk, or whatever it is, but then you don't do it, you don't follow through. You're gonna get angry because you're misaligned from that old version of you that gained the weight or wasn't doing the exercise or whatever it is, to the new version of you that wants to be that person, that is like trying to step into that new version of you, right? And so when those two collide, that's where the anger comes from. And this is why, if used correctly, you can use anger as a bit of a compass, but that is only if you know how to work with it. And the thing is it's not really our fault we don't know how to work with it. It's because we weren't really taught that. If you think back to, you know, growing up, girls were most likely taught to be nice, stay quiet, put your head down, not be angry, whereas men or boys were taught to man up. So nobody was taught how to effectively process anger. So most likely you either explode, where your anger bursts outward, which can include yelling or lashing out or breaking trust or harming relationships or throwing things or punching walls, or, you know, that type of outbursted anger. Or we implode, and that kind of can look like shutting down emotionally, or avoiding conflict, or pretending everything is fine when it's not. And the thing is even though they're very different ways of processing anger, they're both very harmful. So what's the right way to do it? Well, it's transmuting that anger. It's feeling it fully, allowing it to move through your body so it doesn't get stuck and trapped there, decoding whatever message or misalignment that it's sending you, and redirecting that power and that energy towards something more beneficial and positive. So when you start to learn how to transmute, that really is the ultimate, what's the right way to put this? The ultimate expression of self-mastery. So let's kind of get into how to do it. So first, and this is kind of what I was doing today, this is what inspired this video, is acknowledging the anger without judging it. So instead of, like, for example, the things that like I say to myself when I'm feeling that like anger flare up in me really quickly, I say things like, I shouldn't be feeling anger, I'm being dramatic, I need to calm down, like basically downplaying the emotion and telling myself like it's not reasonable for me to be feeling that way. So instead you can kind of start to flip that script, which is again what I was kind of doing today. I was pissed off when I was driving today. You can say things like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, and I'm allowed to. This anger is trying to tell me something. There's wisdom in this emotion. So when you do that and you remove the shame of feeling the anger, you allow it to flow through you instead of getting trapped. And then after that, you want to identify the actual trigger, right? Anger is rarely about some surface level event. So there's questions you can ask yourself, right? But again, the first thing I just told you is really the way I do it, because I'm more of like an imploder. If you're an exploder, or really either way, you're gonna wanna, like, as soon as you feel that like flare up and it starts to kind of like take over, and this is probably the hardest part, is to slow down, because it's such a fast moving emotion, is to really like take 3 deep breaths before you do anything else. And once you get into the habit of that, it gets a lot easier. But it's really catching yourself as soon as that anger starts to overtake you, and forcing yourself to really stop and take 3 deep breaths before you move into any of these steps, right? And so then after you do those 2 things, you want to identify that true trigger. And so you can ask yourself things like, was there a boundary crossed? What truth am I not honoring? Do I have some sort of need that isn't being met? Where am I betraying myself, right? And when you start to dive into those questions, that's where the transformation and transmutation can really begin. So because anger is a physical energy, it has to be moved. You have to move. You can like shake your hands really like vigorously, like that kind of. I know it looks silly, but you have to like move and like get that energy out of you, right? You can punch a pillow, or yell into a pillow, or blast music, or punch a punching bag, or whatever it is that's not going to hurt yourself or another person, but that still gets that explosive energy out, that you can do right there on the spot. That's what you kind of have to figure out, like what works for you in whatever environment you're in. And then you want to channel that into power, which is where the transmutation part of this occurs. So how do you channel it? And it's going to look different for everyone, right? So the biggest thing I do is I'm really big into affirmations and all, you know, positive self-talk and all of that stuff. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, I'll post this video here. But what I will do is I will yell affirmations. I will yell at the universe, and I will take my affirmations that I usually just say, like, oh, I am this, and I will yell it. I will scream it, whatever. And I will put that power and that energy into my affirmations. Obviously, that's not for everyone, and that's fine. I think a big action you can take in that moment, if you have time or if you're able to, is to leave the environment, like immediately. You can leave the situation, leave the area, set the boundary, change the pattern, you know, look at the things that you can control. You can create writing or painting or some kind of art or dancing, filming YouTube, right? In the past, I've been doing this for so long, I wouldn't have gotten on camera in the mood that I am in today. And I decided, no, I'm gonna channel my anger into a video that will help not only myself and allow that creativity to flow, but it'll also help you. You know, so that was my way of channeling the anger that I was feeling into something creative. You can also use it as momentum to get something done. I forget who I have. There's a friend of mine, one of my girls, and I can't remember who does this, but one of them, when they get really pissed, they clean, like they anger clean, you know, like put on like intense music and they just clean. Another one, if you're able to, is getting a good workout in, or going to the gym, putting your headphones on, getting lost in it, and just like pushing weights. That's a really good one that I like to use as well. So you have to figure out like where can you place that energy towards something a little more positive, right? Cleaning is positive, filming this YouTube video for you guys is positive, working out is positive. Like, what is something you can channel that high energy into that can be positive in your life? And sometimes it's expressing the anger. Maybe you take your like phone out or your voice recording and you like yell into it so you don't trap whatever you're feeling in, but you can get it out, let it move through your body and still get out what you want to say. There's been times in my past where like I couldn't necessarily do that. Maybe there were other people around, so I went into my car and I just fucking, whatever. And I just yelled whatever I wanted to yell, but it wasn't harming or affecting anyone around me because I was in my car secluded. Now I want to talk a little bit more about what I primarily do, which is yelling these commands at the universe and how powerful that has been for me. And this is really good if you're an empath like myself, if you're a fire sign, so Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, or if you suppress emotions. Again, find a private space, whether it's out in the middle of the woods, if it's in your car, if you can't like really get away. Feel the anger, feel the fire. That's what I was doing. I was driving earlier when I was doing this. Like feel the fury and the agitation and the, like allow yourself, like let yourself feel the anger, and then speak your truth out loud in whatever capacity comes out and like feels natural, right? So I'm not really a big yeller. Like even when I'm angry, but I can be like loud and intense, like I'm a freaking Italian, you know what I mean? So you can say things like universe, I command a higher timeline. Universe, I'm done feeling this way. I'm breaking this pattern. I'm calling in better. I'm choosing myself. I'm whatever it is. But you can literally yell these commands at the universe using that fire and that life force energy. Use your gut and use your power and say it until your body believes you. You're not yelling in anger at this point. You're reclaiming your power. So if you want to journal off of this, or if you're feeling angry, a few more questions you could ask yourself are, what am I still tolerating that no longer fits who I'm becoming? Or what story am I telling myself that's no longer true? And that can go along with like identity shifts. If you want to learn how to switch your identity and change, I'll post this video here. What action have I been avoiding? What boundary am I allowing to be crossed? What parts of me are still unhealed or unexpressed? And let yourself dive down those holes and understand that there are times where anger is a gift. When you need to leave something that's harmful to you, whether it's a habit or a work environment or a relationship, when you've outgrown your environment, when you're betraying your own needs, when you're suppressing your power or silencing yourself. Because when you learn to dive into these things and work with the emotion, your anger can be alchemized and transmuted into confidence and determination and motivation and self-respect and higher standards, not only for other people but for yourself. It's the version of you that finally sits there and says, I'm done settling. I'm done doing this to myself. I'm done with this pattern. I'm done with fill in the blank, whatever it is for you. You don't become powerful through perfection and swallowing your anger and pushing it down and not allowing yourself to feel it or exploding. You become powerful through radical honesty with yourself and transmutation. So I hope you guys found value in this video. If you do know someone that could really use it, please send it to them, and please don't forget to subscribe so we can hang out again next week. I love you guys so much, and don't forget, be limitlessly yourself.